Recording is started.
Okay, recording is started. Coming up. First item, the agenda is the minutes from the October 8th meeting. Is there a motion to?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve. Second. Any discussion?
I did attend it, but I wasn't listed as an attendee.
Okay, because you weren't yet a,
I wasn't a board member, but I did.
okay. So. Yes, approved. Next, adjustments to the agenda, just in case some of you didn't see, I sent out a message that we are going to have an executive session tonight after the conclusion of new business. Okay. Third, the capital campaign update. Rebecca and friend.
You're already ready for me. Okay, hold on. Let's see. I think would you make it possible for me to share, Leslie?
Yeah. Okay.
Okie dokie. Oh my gosh. My computer is thinking very hard. Sorry if this is taking a minute. Anything on your end?
Oh, got it.
There we go. This is just a very brief presentation, but I thought it would be good to get in the habit of having this ready for you all each month. So I'm pleased to share, I think every time we've talked in recent months, the number has crept up little by little. So that continues to be the case. Hopefully that will continue on every month. We have raised $1,137,000 as of the end of last week. Some really awesome updates to share. We submitted a built grant proposal last week with the help of Lucy Van Hook, who is amazing. We're asking for the maximum award of $100,000 and should hear around December 17th whether we will be receiving this grant. And I believe the piece of equipment we selected for this opportunity that was a really good fit is the building automation system that's part of this EMC project. So I know Leslie and Elizabeth just went absolutely bending over backwards to get this all together because we did learn of the opportunity so close to the deadline and they did a fantastic job. So thank you both for that. And hopefully we'll have some good news to share next month. The other major thing that we've been up to is just talking about our goals, the priorities for the campaign. We've stumbled upon some language that we think is a little stronger. So we've been referring to the 3 goals now as energy efficiency, reimagined spaces, and lasting legacy. Please, if you ever have thoughts about words or phrases that you think would be especially powerful, never hesitate to share those with us. Reimagined spaces was formerly being discussed as community needs. I think this is, cat is crazy. This is a much more descriptive way to talk about this, what's a part of this goal. And in the past 2 campaign committee meetings, which happen every other Monday, about half the people in the room are always at those. So thank you all for your help. And especially with the help of Tommy, who put together a bit of a rubric for us to use. We have been reviewing sort of every reimagined space related suggestion that came up among the staff space survey, the community survey, and sort of some high-level thoughts from Leslie as the director. Most recently, last Monday, we went through those and used a scoring system to sort of figure out which seemed most important to our goals as an organization. And we used a number of factors to determine that. And in the next meeting, I think next Monday, we will be sort of finalizing what we think are our highest level priorities to potentially look at incorporating into a reimagined spaces goal. So those concrete details are almost here. And as you all as board members will hear about that from members of the campaign committee probably next month and help us agree that we are in a good spot to move forward and start, figuring out what is feasible and what we could really do among those priority areas. So stay tuned for that. The other, whoops, that was the cat. The other big item that is on the horizon is just figuring out how to have a really wonderful, meaningful engagement with anyone who attended the corporator meeting and hasn't yet heard a one-on-one update about the campaign from members of the campaign committee and staff. So we've got an initial list together and we're figuring out who the right people are to have those conversations and begin bringing more people into the know on some of the details. Does anyone have any questions about campaign so far? I'm so sorry about this distracting cat. Next time I'll make sure my husband can keep her away from me. She's crazy.
It's cute.
They're so cute though, I know. She keeps kissing me. I'm like, stop, I'm working. Does anyone have any questions?
That's good.
Do you like reimagined spaces?
Yes. Very
I think so too. Yeah, good. I'm so glad. Oh, she just did it again. Well, okay, I'm gonna unshare my screen.
Needs was always confusing to me because even the energy efficiency in the HVAC is a community need. So it was, I think even that was lumped in there. So this
Exactly right.
resonates a little bit.
Yep.
It's a little bit clearer.
Yeah, I think it's much more evocative or
Yeah.
engages the imagination more than
Is spaces physical spaces or
Exactly. Yeah.
beyond?
Physical spaces.
That's right, physical spaces. And I can share some examples. I think, what was really interesting is that the community survey, and I guess this is not surprising, but the staff assessment and the community survey are really in lockstep on the big stuff that folks are looking for. And so we're talking about, a lot of the community members were really interested in more comfortable places to read and work. Everyone is looking for kind of an update to the circulation desks, both in the main area and in the children's room, and just some general updates to the children's area. And then just thinking, how can we better use the space that we have? More modern touches that help people who are working on computers and things like that. So we're excited to share all that information with you soon. And I think folks have found it to be a pretty straightforward process. There's nothing crazy about what people, there were some really cool ideas that were obviously out there, like going underground, building a parking garage. We know those things are not going to be possible for $1 million campaign, but lots of really good ideas otherwise. Although I think that would be great. That would be great.
Any other questions for Rebecca? Okay.
Looks good.
That's
Well,
it.
thank you all. I'm off to
Thank
my
you,
next
Rebecca.
one. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Next item, I have a few comments and then we'll move on. First of all, I want to welcome Suki. She's back again as a trustee. Glad to have her back. She's already expressed an interest to go in both feet and working on the governance committee. I think she's doing so. We can certainly appreciate her contributions to that in the future. A couple kudos. Some of them you've saw already in the document package, but it's worth mentioning again, I think. Congrats to Sarah
Yes.
Majewski for getting her MLS. Good work and glad. She's a great asset, and now she's got the credential too. That's wonderful. And also acknowledging Hannah's great work on a whole variety of things, the language groups, the writing groups, upgrading the video accessibility of events by replacing Zoom with YouTube and as appropriate. That's all great stuff. If there's anything else that should be acknowledged, please let me know. I'm just going partly on what I had read, but I think our staff is deserving of kudos all the time, and many of them have accomplishments that are very noteworthy. In light of the lengthy agenda tonight, we'll do my best, and I hope everyone else will, to keep our comments input as concise as possible. If you haven't already done so, I'd ask that please make your pledge for the annual appeal. Thanks to everyone who has made their commitment. That would apply as well to the capital campaign. I think we have people who've pledged in theory, but now to make further progress, especially with larger scale outside donors, we would appreciate having an actual financial commitment. So please, if you haven't already, please attend to that as soon as possible. Follow-up thing to committee chairs, referencing an email I sent out recently about a potential message to corporators, inviting them to join committees and asking for committee chairs with the preferred background, interest, and skills, if you have such preferences. I've heard from some people, I think not from everyone. I know the Building and Technology Committee asked for a little time to have an internal discussion before they got back to me. So, but if you have already responded, that's great. Those of you that haven't, please let me know if you want to be included in the message that will go out. Leslie will send it out under my name to all the corporators, and hopefully we get some people who are interested in helping and with the skills that can be useful. This is part of our step to try to engage the corporators more. So let's give it a try. To committee chairs, you're all invited to attend the library all-staff meeting December 2nd at 9 a.m. Leah and I will be there for sure. A major topic will be the review and discussion of the staff survey results. I guess there'll be other items on the agenda as well. But for those who want to attend, I think, there's, based on the results that we saw, there's certain issues, certain areas that are of particular interest. And so if you can make it, I'm thinking particularly of the financial side would be useful. Although I think we could, that I and Leah can at least handle the basic questions. But I encourage you, if you have a little time to spend and are available on that date, it'd be very helpful. It's a good sign to show, good to show the staff too that the board is engaged and wants to interact with them in a format that's set aside for them to do so. And
December 2nd, you said?
December 2nd at 9.
Community room.
Yeah. And finally, you may have seen that Leah's instigation, working with Leslie, we sent out the annual conflict of interest policy signature page. The document was sent out earlier today. I think there are no changes, but you can do that and get it back to you, Leah. Is that right? Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. And that is, those are my comments for tonight. Tonight's meeting, we go on to the, unless there are any questions, we'll go on to the librarian's report.
I just have a couple things, but before we start, so did I hear you right, Carl, that the board's gonna have an executive session at the end of this meeting?
Yes.
Okay, so I guess there's nobody on Zoom, so I can just turn the recording off when we're done and then Jack will leave. Okay, great. Since there's no one on Zoom. All right, great. And I'm gonna just give a building update. And before I do that, though, I wanted to answer a question that Michael had from the last meeting. He had asked what was the warranty on the roof.
Yeah.
And I found out from Dan, our project manager from EMC, it's 20 years. The first year is what did he tell me? The first year is just the basic warranty for installation, and then it rolls over into 19 years of the warranty with the company anyway, 20 years basically is the warranty total for the roof. So anyway, I wanted to give you an update for where we are with the building project. If you've not had a chance to look in the reading room in the past week or two, we've had the magnetite installation of the windows in the old part of the building, and it looks amazing. You can barely tell that there is anything there, but it really blocks out the draft on those windows. So if you get a chance, go down to that part. They were able to use, I guess, the metal that surrounds The plexiglass was some metal from another job and it's almost the same color as that oak wood and it's just gorgeous. So you can barely tell that there's anything on it. And he's given us some special cleaner for that plexiglass and it looks just amazing. So take a look. It's all on the old windows in the reading room and also on the second floor in the development office, on the second floor as well, and on the stairwell leading upstairs. It looks fantastic. And also actually on the third floor of the tower as well. So that job is done. And actually the electricians that are working with Mac Air Pro, who's doing all the HVAC, they started last week. They're primarily in the basement running conduit through big pipes all across the basement. And Mac Air Pro actually started today. So they're getting the lay of the land and then they're gonna be starting to install the heat pumps. So their plans are to work mostly evenings and nights. So the disruption should be fairly minimal. So we will see on that. And then EMC is still working with the engineers on the solar. So we'll be getting updates on that. So the next big thing that's happening again is the heat pumps, and they're hoping to do a lot of that work when the library is closed. So yeah, very exciting. So those are really all the comments that I have. I'm gonna keep it pretty short since we've got a pretty full agenda. And again, welcome, Suki. It's great to have you back. Good.
One follow-up question, Leslie, it came from, I think, talking within the finance committee, and I know you took action on this, but have you heard anything more about from Windstream? I know you're disputing the bills.
Yes, no, I filed the dispute online, and I have not received any email or anything. That's how I'm hoping to hear. But I also, in the dispute, I have also got a letter. I mean, I wrote in the letter, everything is a form you fill out, but I have a letter describing everything. I went through all the bills. So when, if I need to take it to the main, is it PUC? I have everything all documented, all the bills. I have a folder all ready to go with everything I need. And one of the reasons I waited too was also because we needed to close out our accounts with Windstream, and we couldn't do that until everything was moved over, and that happened in stages. So it did take a while. We moved over our POTS lines first, which were the expensive lines, and then we had to wait. Step lines. So anyway, I have all the documentation and everything in the letter all ready to go. Should I need to?
Thank you. You have a question?
Yeah, you had mentioned before about the reimagined spaces and the community survey. Have we gotten, I'm just trying to remember whether we've gotten the community survey. Maybe
Yes, yes, that
We
was sent
have?
out.
I sent,
the patron survey?
yeah, the board received it.
Yeah,
Okay, then I'm
okay,
mistaken.
all right. Move on to the consent agenda. There a motion to accept the consent agenda? Second, so Eileen and Suki, now we have it for discussion. I can just offer your comments on any of the half dozen or so reports included on the consent agenda. And we don't have a Friends representative here, do we? So the only question I had was I thought it was great to get the historical financial data from Friends. I think we've been looking for that for a long time. It's really great and it reflects very well on them. But I saw, unless I missed it, there were no records for the gross income from 2007 to 2020. There were figures for net, but not for gross. And I was wondering about that. So I don't know if that's just were records not kept or it was just an oversight.
I don't know, because I didn't, that was from Pat who
Right,
put that together. Yeah, I actually don't know.
okay, yeah, I wouldn't expect that.
I could probably go back. I don't know how far back our QuickBooks records go. I could see
Well,
if we could get those, but I don't know. Yeah, I
I
can.
think I'll ask that.
Yeah. I can say that the Friends have a new treasurer who Julie Carlton, who I've spent quite a bit of time with today, getting her up to speed, so,
I noticed that there was quite a big increase in the net from 2 years, I think it was 2 years ago to last year. It was, I think it was almost $10,000 increase in net.
we attribute a lot of that to Square because
wondered
they,
about
yes,
that,
there's
yeah. That was a
getting
nice,
Square was
that was a good increase.
yes, yes, getting Square was huge for the Friends.
Okay. Right, so that was regarding Friends. Are there other questions, discussion, issues, topics for the other reports within the consent agenda?
I was interested that there was a comment maybe that the employee being filmed at their consent, that there was actually a policy in place to address that with, and it was gratifying for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that
Kind of interesting. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I know, yeah.
It was brought up because I think they're looking for something to be able to hand out to patrons, you
Yeah.
know, readily to. But
It's-
it's there, but it's there.
So I recall it's not the first time that there's been such an incident too.
Second time.
Yeah.
Oh, in the monthly report, I know that's changed now, but there was no report from the children's.
Mary had an excused absence in the report that her father passed away. She was out all last week.
She was on bereavement.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
So
I always look forward.
she'll try to catch you up next month.
Catch up next month.
Yeah.
It's fine, it's fine.
Back to-
I noticed the absence.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nothing else? Move on to the treasurer's report.
That's me. All right.
That's
let's get
you.
the numbers out here. All right, so we'll start looking at cash. Starting at the top, you'll see that we do have cash now, so that's good. We got a couple of municipalities. Leslie, remind me which ones came.
Bath and West Bath.
Okay, that's what I thought. Bath and West Bath. So that is good. Going down to the endowment, the total as of yesterday is $8,721,612.54, which is up a little bit from the end of last month. This is November.
Yeah.
And then as far as P and L goes, really nothing too nominal to note. Are there any questions on either the cash report or the, you know? I think the big thing coming from the minutes I read, because I wasn't able to be here last month, was talked about the being slightly cash poor, but that has been mostly mitigated and we'll get the rest of the municipality shortly. So I think that is okay.
Which, is it a Rouseck or which has yet to contribute?
Oralsic, Georgetown and Woolwich.
Okay,
And
oh.
also the with the going out of the annual appeal, we'll also start to see
Right.
that.
Sure.
Rouseck doesn't send their taxes out to the end of November, so.
Yeah, Oralsic is our last, but
Yeah.
we usually get it by the end of
As soon
December.
as the taxes start coming in, okay.
Yeah.
I think Georgetown and Sunday is doing November.
Yeah, we usually, I would say by the end of the year, the end of the calendar year, we usually have received.
Yeah, I think-
Rousic's usually the last, but
Yeah.
not the least.
No, certainly not.
They are the least, because
Well, they are the
love
least.
Not in our hearts.
Okay, any other questions for Anthony?
Was there something about the capital reserve fund getting replenished from, was it the feasibility study? And I wasn't sure.
That will
of the-
come at the, when we talk about the budget for the capital
Okay, okay.
campaign.
Yeah.
That will be.
The development report.
Okay, Samantha, as usual, left me some really good notes here. The annual fund as of today is at 34,813 plus 19,476 in pledges. At this point, she's added in annual pledges for, she's included the monthly donors this year so that we can sort of, anticipate out what the total will be. Which is new this year. She said we're behind last year's totals by about 15,000, which she's chalking up to the mailing going out 3 weeks later than it did in previous years. We were waiting on apparently some info from the CPA. The mailing went to about 1,200 people, which included last year's donors, all lapsed donors that we have in the database, potential donors that are flagged as such in the database, and all new card holders for the last fiscal year. Expenses for the mailing exceeded the estimate of 3,000. It's now over 3,600, and that was in part due to the increase in the stamp cost. And because a lot of the mailing weighed more than they anticipated, so it was 1.3 ounces, we had to pay for an extra ounce stamp for each one. So the envelopes I was handing out earlier, that's an example of what went out. She basically said, since you don't get the appeal mailing, because you make your pledges ahead of time, she's made up this packet for each of you. She wanted to make sure that folks keep an eye out for stewardship tasks as these gifts start to come in from the appeal. So please keep an eye on your email. If you're stewarding someone and they've made a gift, there may be instructions for you to follow up with them. And if you want to review your donor list to steward additional people or different people, please reach out to Samantha. She also wanted to make sure that we knew that the annual report is live and in full on our website, including a complete donor list.
Oh.
An abbreviated version went out in the appeal envelope to about 175 donors. Neither version has the final numbers for revenue expense because we still have not gotten that number from the CPA. So once we have that, it will be edited online when we have the final numbers.
Could you repeat what you just said, Eileen? It was so fast. I didn't, about something online?
The annual report is online.
Report.
Yep, and
Okay.
that includes a complete donor list. And she wanted to make sure that we understood that the revenue and expenses still aren't final, so that will get updated later.
Online on the.
On the Patent Free Library website, I think.
The overall
Yep.
website, not the.
That's my understanding. She didn't specify. And then there's some fundraisers coming up, which Suki and I would like to tell you a little more about. Suki's gonna tell you about what's happening on December 4th.
On the 4th, we have a fundraiser at Sisters. And they're giving a percentage of their proceeds for anybody gets a gift, I think that buys a gift certificate. And we're gonna have baskets, a basket out there, a raffle basket that we'd like a few donations more. Sam has some things, but we're sort of aiming for things that gourmet food item type things to put in the basket. I think it's not gonna, it doesn't have to be as extensive as what we want for the patent free library night of the patent thing,
Well, that's different.
which is different.
Yeah, we don't have baskets at the night of the patent.
Oh,
So
okay,
the Sisters Deli gift card fundraiser, we're gonna have one basket.
okay.
Gourmet food items.
Yeah.
So this little sheet that's getting passed around, please drop off. She wants donations from
Right.
trustees. Please drop off shelf stable, please, gourmet food by Wednesday, the 27th of November.
Right.
So we can make that basket up.
Do you need money to
Just
come?
only volunteer.
No, we're set. We've got 2 from 11 and then here 1 to 3. So that's what we're doing for the lunch hour thing. So I can't really going 11 to 1, but I know I have to be there at 1.
So you're sitting there in the
With the
store.
basket and yes, in the store, yeah. It's a presence. I mean, and they've been really good about putting up our posters on there. They have a big bulletin board as you come in the door. And they've been really good about letting us put up the posters there too, which is really, so they're supportive. It seems to be a supportive organization.
They're really nice people.
They are, yeah.
Yeah.
And they're desserts.
Their sandwiches are really good.
The sandwiches are awesome.
So, yeah, like I personally would like to go and get, I'll probably, I'm not gonna be around. I might ask you to do this for me, but I'll give them to my kids for
Yeah,
Christmas in their
exactly.
stockings.
They're
Like,
really,
they
that's a
love
really, if
Sisters,
you have
yeah.
anybody, especially who works downtown, or if you work downtown, that's a really good thing you can give to somebody for Christmas.
The other thing is the night of the patent, which is December 14th. And Samantha would like trustees to donate wine, and please make them screw top if you can bear it, Michael. Please drop off to the library by Thursday the 12th. That, in anticipation of the event on the 14th. So just a little cheat sheet for you. Please keep this handy so you remember what we need and when we need it. And please use Suki as a contact for the Sisters event, and you can use me as an initial contact for the Night of the Patent event. I believe Barbara Boyce is actually gonna be heading up the planning of that event, but for now, but she was still caught up in election stuff, so I think she's not ready to turn her attention just yet, but you can use me as a conduit. So I'll have the extras here if anyone wants.
If anybody needs me to pick on any donations up, I'd be happy to bring around and pick them up too.
The other last point about the Night of the Patent is, we are in dire need of music for the night. Last year we had a live musician. It was really popular. She hasn't been able to find anyone. Everyone they've asked is busy. So if you know anybody who does that sort of thing, please let Samantha or Cookie know. We had someone set up in the reading room, but you were there, just singing
very
sort of
nice.
Christmas
Yeah.
holiday type music, and it was really popular. People were just hanging out down there. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so,
And we do pay for that, so it's not.
Okay.
so please refer anyone to Samantha or
Something
Cookie.
like Derby or something. I don't know.
Do it just single person or a group
could do
or?
either
they-
one.
A couple people, I think, you know, it's not, you don't want a huge
No, you two, one or
noisy
two
thing
or
going
three,
on,
yeah.
but yeah,
What about the food? Is that gonna be catered?
we're gonna pay to have it catered at this time.
I think Cookie knows someone.
Hmm?
That Cookie knows someone?
For music?
Yeah.
She referred someone to Samantha, but I guess he's not available.
Okay.
Mm.
She can do jazz vocal.
I hate to bring up these little administrative things, but the last meeting I was at with development, which was 2 meetings ago, I think, we talked about the meter on the postage meter, and I'm just wondering where that stands, because it seems like it's been going all over the place in terms of who's gonna handle it.
I think it's in process. I think Elizabeth was working on it last I knew. The postage meter,
The what?
Yeah.
the postage meter, the
Yeah, I am working on that. That's all to me, and I'm working on it, so.
That's the
Look at it.
nonprofit rate.
Pardon?
That's the nonprofit rate mailings.
Yes, yeah.
Save a lot of money.
Thank you.
so unless there's any questions?
Is it a big
Yep.
deal?
Town area school activities. Thing to add for that. People who are connected, schools. Okay. No, they don't have
I
anything.
should, Keith Hines is our new select board. He's a member of the policy and personnel committee and he's our new.
Oh, yeah, I noticed that.
I think that's
Oh,
nice.
It's already been sworn in.
I'm sorry, can you, I'm having a little trouble hearing some people.
Sorry, Keith Hines, Hinds. He's been a longstanding member of the policy and personnel committee, but he's a new select board member in West Bath. So that's
And who
good news.
did he replace?
Madeline Hennessy.
Was
Oh,
it
Madeline?
Madeline or Suzanne Andre?
No, Suzanne's still there.
Oh,
Madeline, I just stopped by there today. Madeline is out. Seemed, well, relieved.
Okay,
Interesting. I thought when Suzanne ran for, I thought she
No.
was giving up her spot. So. Misunderstood that one.
Okay, good to know. Sounds like a plus. Anything else? Right, now we're on to new business, starting with the capital campaign budget. So is that,
I think that's me again. Hang on, let me pull it up. All right, so I trust everyone has had a chance to look at the budget. What we'll do is I want to go through it. I don't want to say briefly, but just explain a little bit of the things that might not be as evident. So just starting at the top, the staff. So what we have here is what we expect to spend in the capital campaign. And then over on the side here, we have the years in which we expect to incur this expense. So we have, starting with staff, the campaign assistant, which is Cookie, we have that projected out. Going down to the professional services, you will note that there are a couple of professional services that were paid in the last fiscal year. That's just when those expenses fell, just slightly before the campaign, because those were the feasibility study and then partially to Rebecca before we officially jumped in. So you'll note those are the only expenses there.
yeah, I do want to add, that is where Leah had brought up the comment. So this is where, so the board had approved spending the 15 grand for the feasibility study out of capital reserve. So this would be a change because we didn't know at that time that we're actually moving forward with the capital campaign. So that in this budget, what would happen would be we'd actually credit back the capital reserve, the $15,000 and pay for it out of the campaign. So if the board approves that budget, that's what will happen. So just so you understand that,
Yeah, so that's how we're accounting for it. We're rolling it into the campaign now that we have a campaign. And then going down, why don't I take some questions? Does anybody have any questions? Is there anything? I will get to the phase 1, 2, and 3. I'll explain those, but anything on the top parts, communication, equipment, any questions with all those? I think they're fairly self-described on what it is. As far as mementos and plaques, that has to do with recognition. We don't really know what that's gonna look like yet, so we've put a number in there that we think is reasonable. Same as for the kickoff event for the public phase. That's what we expect we would spend, that sort of thing, which is when we announce to the public officially that we're in a capital campaign. The few left that won't know. But there will be some, Anyway, so moving on to phase 1. So what we've done here is this is the energy efficiencies phase. So this is the EMC project. What we have here is what we expect to pay EMC. Next line down is the 5% contingency. That's just in case something happens and there's more to spend. That's just a budgeting purpose. Down to the loan origination fee, you'll see it's $1,500. We do know that is the price that it'll be. And then we have an estimation of the interest that we'll pay on the loan. So you'll notice that for this year, it's slightly lower than the rest. The next 2 years, what we've done is we've projected out at the highest amount, $1 million for the entire year. That could change. This is a good estimation on what we have. I don't think we've gone too low. I'm hoping maybe we've gone a little high. Who knows what'll happen? But I think that's a really good estimation. One thing that you'll note, somebody did bring up when we were looking at this, is that the principal payment is not included in this. That's because it is included in the whole project. So $1 million essentially of the EMC project is being paid for from the loan. We don't, for these purposes, we don't need to notate that we are paying back principal because it's included in the project. The only extra is the interest on which we incur on that $1 million, if should we borrow the whole $1 million. So that's why you won't notice that specifically. That's just sort of inherent as a part of the project that it will be paid back. Any questions on that piece?
Yes, Anthony, this is related, but at one point there was a bit of a time delay in processing I understand the transfer of the assets from the Star Fund into Bath Savings, and
Yeah,
it wasn't, the finalizing the loan wasn't possible until that was done.
Well, that's
Or is,
yes and no. So
okay,
thank you for bringing that up. We are going to close that loan on Friday.
Okay.
So we will officially have a facility on Friday.
great.
We will not be able to draw until the assets, the shares of the Star Fund come over from Vanguard to the hands of the Bath Savings Trust Company. That process, because we're a nonprofit, takes a while. They have to do it kind of the old way. So it takes a month or so. We're right on the edge of that month, so it should be coming any day. We will close Friday regardless. We just won't be able to access funds until they have the collateral secure. So once that comes over, we would be able to draw as soon as they can do that. All they have to do is just verify the assets are here, and then they'll let us draw. So we will be closing the loan on Friday, no matter what. We haven't gotten the second invoice, so everything is okay. We're not, we're not late on anything, waiting. So everything's been a little slower than we expected, which in this case is okay. Sometimes it works out that way. Any other questions on that piece? And then phase 2, it says community needs on here.
I'll fix that.
We will fix that. We just changed the name, so we will fix that. Again, this is down here, you'll notice it's less descriptive because we don't really know what we're gonna do yet. This is just the amount of money spread out for what we expect to, not how we expect to spend it. So you'll see, we expect that we likely won't implement something until 25, 26, and then 26, 27, maybe a little bit in 24, 25. The time in which it's spent could be different. This is a bit of an estimation. But that's the portion of the capital campaign, and then down to endowment, that's fairly easy to see. That is, what's that?
Legacy now, right?
Right.
Oh, yeah, did we change that
as
to
well. I will-
legacy?
Yeah. I'll
I'm
change
reading
that.
from what I have. It's changed. Thank you for correcting. It's changed to legacy now. But that is where just the portion of that is 500,000, so that's spread over 2 years. Any questions on that?
Could you discuss the professional fees and implementation costs?
Yes, let me see. Is that under phase two?
These two.
Yeah.
These two, yeah.
Professional fees are hiring an architect, engineers, things like that to determine feasibility. And implementation costs are everything from construction to landscaping to, so it's not just, I would say construction costs, but it's not just construction. It can depend to furniture, to everything else, to technology.
And again, this is an estimation. We are not going to go above and beyond to spend 200,000 on professional services. Should that only cost 100,000, we would take that other 100,000 and roll that into the project. What we've done here is we've split it out for what we think could happen, because then we have a little bit of leeway. If you do it the other way, it becomes a little harder. So we've split it out this way, anticipating we may need to spend that much. Because this has to do with imagining new spaces and all that, we expect there may be a bit of construction involved. Maybe, don't quote me on that, but.
Yeah, right, well, it is, if we're redoing, or I do like the foyer of the entrance, so basically, I talked with Karen Robbins and she said sort of maybe think 20% sort of for professional fees, and then, so it's really a working budget, it's going to change, we know that.
Yeah.
But, because we don't know what our reimagined spaces is going to look like yet, but sort of, this gives us a good starting place.
Knowing that it's gonna change, when would you actually change the budget? Is that something, that's just me not really knowing about capital campaign budgeting. Is that something in 6 months?
I think when I would think when we have a better or even an understanding of what's going to happen, I would think we would come with a revision. Because as of right now, we don't really know yet, so, and even in 6 months, I wouldn't expect
Might not.
that
Probably
probably.
the phase two, we won't know because we don't,
Yeah.
until we know what the projects are, we don't know what the
Yeah.
costs for the projects are going to be.
And so, and to get to that point, we have to spend some professional fees,
Right.
right?
So
So
that's really.
That's why that's there, because we're probably gonna go through at least half of that before we really know. I would expect where we know where we're going, but once we have an idea of the scope of the project, I would say we would rewrite this and present it again as a revision for knowing what we're going to do. Any other questions?
When will you expect an approval of a capital campaign budget? This is just a draft, so when do you?
I'm going to motion to approve it tonight. In fact, this is ready. I think in my opinion, really shouldn't say drafted on top. This is ready for your consideration, so
Well, I
I'll,
mean, it's a draft, because it's still a draft until the board approves it.
sure.
But I think we are asking for,
But this
so
is
because it's
yours.
hard to go forward to move with even like administrative costs for things that we have to use money for now.
Yeah, the commit, so just so you know how it got here and why I'm presenting it, it has gone through the capital campaign and it has gone through the finance committee, which admittedly is mostly the same people, but it has still been seen many times. So that's where we are tonight. So I would move to approve the capital campaign budget.
I think
We can still talk about it.
Okay,
I
right.
I presented and so now I think
Yeah.
I'll motion to approve and then we can continue.
Second.
Discussion.
She seconded, and then anything else?
Is there further discussion?
I think one thing I want to say too is that, we're gonna be coming back to the board to ask for approval or agreement or consent on the reimagined spaces. So we're not gonna be moving forward with anything without board approval. So it's not like we're gonna be spending you know, this other money without the board, you know, agreeing that these are the direction that we're moving.
One might say not willy-nilly, it will be,
Yeah, this is not a blank.
yeah,
blanket.
it's not a blank check,
Not
that's
we're
for
going
sure.
hog wild. I mean, the one thing we may do
Well,
is there may
3
be
million
another
too.
grant that we're, you know, applying for where I won't need to come back to the board to ask to spend, you know, money. We've approved money to have a grant writer, right, you know, so we could, you know, but any big, you know, part where we're working on.
And then one other
project
thing,
like that.
one other thing I just wanna mention on this is when we started with a soft goal of 3 million. That was not set in stone, and as you'll see, we are nearing the 4 million in the budget. We started that goal based on a couple of things, based on the EMC costing a bit less, based on estimating a few other things that would be a bit less. When it comes to these sort of projects, you don't always know what it's going to cost you, especially we didn't quite realize or even factor into that some of the professional fees or Rebecca or something like that. So we started with that $3 million thought, but to get there, it's gonna cost a little bit more, which again is normal. And now you can see that we've budgeted that way, and we will just continue raising to get to that point.
The important thing that this does is establishes a framework for tracking expenses over the next year or so. And I imagine we're gonna have to do a overhaul of this budget this time next year.
Each
if
year,
not
right.
before.
Because we can track what we've spent. We've now set up a way to track in QuickBooks, so we'll be tracking it closely. The finance committee will be looking at it every month.
There'll be an
We
expense
can
report
see-
every month. just-
Right, well,
just
the
like-
board will see the expense report too, track exactly what we spent towards capital campaign versus general operating, so we can look at, and again, this is a 3-year, we don't normally, you know, in our regular budgeting, we just do a 1 year. So
Any other questions or comments? It's been a motion to, and a seconded motion to approve the capital campaign budget as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Third.
It's like it's unanimous. Okay. Great, great. Then we move on to public policy issues. The unrestricted realized bequests policy. Yeah.
Tommy's doing that one.
Yeah, that was.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
We're tag teaming this.
It wasn't a very heavy lift. I don't know. But Rebecca brought to our attention the fact that we had actually received a request in hand, and there was some confusion, given that there's a capital campaign going on, what we should do with the bequest. So this policy establishes that under all circumstances, when we get a realized bequest, we would put it in the endowment fund, and in the event that there is a capital campaign, we would consider it part of the capital campaign. We would consider it funds raised by the capital,
Should the campaign be raising funds for the
endowment.
Oh,
So-
right, gotcha.
So that's the purpose of this policy, so that we know what to do with the checks when they come.
Is there a distinction being made between bequests and just a general unrestricted gift?
So this would be specifically in somebody's will.
Right.
Yeah,
So I mean, is there, what I'm saying is so there's a distinction and with say if we got a $31,000 unrestricted gift, how would that money be distributed? I'm just trying to get the
like
distinction.
not a bequest, just like you
No.
won the lottery and wanted to give some
Right.
money. That
So,
would fall under a different.
I mean, we have
No different policy.
a policy for that, I believe, don't we?
I think if it's over.
We
the
do
amount,
have a
if
policy. I'm
it's
trying to
over
think
the amount.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would fall under a different policy.
It's over 5,000.
5,000, there's a
Right,
$5,000
then it comes to the
threshold.
board.
The board decides.
Right,
Right.
okay. Just want to make the
Capital reserves or.
distinction
endowment.
between a bequest and
Yes.
a similarly sized.
Yeah, but this is
Unrestricted
just a
gift, yeah.
bequest that came, a realized bequest.
So an unrestricted gift, if we were to receive it during the capital campaign, doesn't automatically go into the capital campaign? Is that what?
Correct. That is how our policies would currently read.
Okay,
Yep.
so
But a bequest, unrestricted bequest would fall
it
into
would
that
go
category.
right into
Yeah.
the endowment and be part of the,
Correct, which is likely where it would go anyway. We just wanted to put
Right.
on paper so that there wouldn't be any question as to why we did that, and going forward, we set precedent going forward to be a policy to fall back on.
Hopefully we'll get to use this policy many times.
Yes,
Yeah.
Is there any other discussion?
You like a motion?
If not, then is there a motion to accept? Eileen, second? Okay. Second, all in favor of the policy, adopting the policy? Okay, unanimous, done. Now, work pod and group study policy.
Yes, so that was the Policy and Personnel Committee, and this policy was changed to add the pods, which were a relatively new addition, and so that policy got sent around in advance. We had looked at one draft, and some of our language clarification was really identifying that the pods are not ADA accessible. So I think probably the most important thing is to know that somebody who did have basically physical needs or needs for the group study room or small study room, that they would that would take precedence because they would not be able to access the pod. But otherwise, I think it's pretty straightforward. So this is to update really with the what's available for patrons. So since this was new equipment, it's a new policy, it does require board approval. So I would ask for a motion to adopt the policy.
Is there any discussion? Are there any questions about proposed policy?
is there, I guess it's too late now, but I remember raising this before about being concerned about the lack of ADA for the pods. Is there such a thing as an ADA approved pod? We could have gotten a pod that was ADA approved.
Yeah, you can find them. They're expensive. They may be part of the reimagined spaces that we come up with, but
They would be much larger too.
Yeah,
They would take up a lot more space
Yeah.
too.
Guess you'd be
Yeah,
able to
but
The
have
reason we
a
didn't
wheelchair in it.
was because we have a room that does that. Like we're not denying somebody access to space because we have a space that meets that.
Right, but it does set them apart.
Not really, because it doesn't set them apart. It's a space for single use as well. So it really doesn't, I don't see it as setting them apart. It's the pod, it would be a bigger space about the size of that same space.
That's the office down there across from reference?
Yes.
Yeah.
It would have to be almost the same size, so to me, I see no difference, really.
and I think that's reflected in the
Right.
policy.
It performs exactly the same function, it's just not, it's not a standalone, it's built in. So it really, there's no difference other than it's not freestanding. So if you look at it that way, there's really,
I think in the future, when we're reimagining space, we should really consider ADA
Yeah.
requirements.
Mhm.
We
I
do.
think that's.
yeah, and we thought about that, but because we had this other space. Which individuals do use, it met the requirements for ADA, we decided not to purchase one.
I mean, the key to that is if the rules governing the access to that space is the same as the rules governing the access to the pod. And are they the same?
It's just like, so here's an example, just like the routes for in the teen space, the pilot house, that's not accessible to people. But it passed codes because if we offer the same space, same seating, if you have seating, if there's collections up there, that's different, it's seating. But if we offer seating for somebody then it's fine. So it's not that every space has to be accessible, you have to offer that same,
It's like
Okay.
parking spaces.
the same, right. the same, what's the word, this, the same type of service. So it meets that group study room, you can do exactly the same thing as you can do in a pod. So you can set the same type of seating, just, in different parts of the library.
And-
Doesn't mean that every single space has to be available.
And to Rick's point, putting the pods into this policy does in fact put it in line with the same rules and guidelines in that workroom. In fact, uses the same system and all that jazz. You get it the same exact way. So that's a good point, and this does that.
Right, so we feel that it does satisfy. But it is important to look at that, and we wanna make sure that everybody gets the same service.
I think that was one of the elements of the space committee's work also. That was one of the issues they brought out as an important factor deciding how we move forward with the reimagining spaces, as it's now called.
It's not directed for this policy specifically, but is there a service as you start, as the reimagined spaces starts coming together, more of having somebody that has this an expertise in ADA accessibility to really look at once it all starts coming together? I mean, that to me would be a worthwhile professional fee to
Yeah.
really, because it comes up. I mean, I think where we're thinking, did we miss an opportunity?
Yeah, I think we
Yes, I
talked
think
about
it's
that,
good.
but we ended up definitely bringing somebody in building wide to look at it.
Yes, and
everything.
that's what
Yeah.
I'm saying. It's not
Yeah.
for this policy, but I just,
Yeah.
I would.
We do plan to do that, even in the spaces that we weren't planning on. To make sure, yep.
I'll move to accept.
Second.
All in favor of the policy?
Okay.
Passed. Okay. All right, well, that brings us to the end of our general public session for the board. We're now going to move into
Stop the
executive
recording.
session.
Find it.
Wonder about the videos.